Now let's try a similar one with change in variable cost. Now I'll have this arranged in a different manner this time. So first, let me enter the parameters here. I want to test the impact of change in variable cost on the profits. So what all potential inputs do I have for variable cost? I have 25, I have 30, let's say 35, 40, 45, and then 50. I want to test these possible numbers on the variable cost and also check the final result based on these inputs. So where do I want to test it on? I want to test it on profits. So I need to link the cell on which I'm testing. Okay. And then let's make it bold so that it looks different here. And then select this entire set, okay, as if it's a table. Go to what if analysis, data table, and then this time all your input parameters are arranged in a row. Click on row input cell, and this time we want all these to be reflecting in the place of variable cost. So I click the row input cell reference as the variable cost, click OK, and here we have this. Well, in case if you want to test it out, okay, here we have got this result based on the point that selling price is at $70, sales volume is 75 units, and fixed cost is at 1,500. So considering this, let's say, what if the variable cost was 50? If it was 50, my data table says that I will break even. That means no profit, no loss. Let's hit enter and see. Well, that's the case. Well, what if the variable cost was 40? Data table says that it would be 750 as profits. So let's try. We have variable cost set to 40, and yes, indeed. Here we have 750. Don't bother with the change of these cells over here because both of them are directly linked to profits, but the rest of them do not change. Now I can make them look like a table, so all I need to do is select the cells, go to home menu, select all borders. These are the input parameters. I'll give it a color. Let's say something like this. Make them look bold. And here are the input parameters. And what are these for? Change in variable cost. Okay. So what could be the title for this data table? Impact of change in variable cost on profits. Great. So can we have a similar one over here for impact of change in something over here? Change in selling price on profits. Let's try this over here. Here we have, let me format this again as a table. We have all borders. I'll make this look bold. Give that a background color and center. So here we have this. I'll make them go center. Yes. So in this way, Excel is actually testing it in the background. Excel is taking these values, putting it here, and copy the value, the final result, and paste it in the corresponding cell. And this is how the data tables work. Now moving on. So far, here we have one parameter and a result which considers all of the values remaining constant. But what if I want to simultaneously test the impact on profits based on change in selling price as well as change in variable cost? That means testing on both of them at the same time. Now let's try this over here. I have the space. I have these as change in selling price. Let's say I copy and paste it here. All right. And here I will say change in selling price. And let's merge these cells. And I would like to tilt the text in this way, rotate text up, and here we have. Next, I would want to test the change in variable cost. So I'll copy this entire thing, paste it here, and here we have this as a matrix. Now I want to test the change of selling price and the change of variable cost and its impact on the profits. So what am I testing it on? The profits. So at this corner, I put an equal sign, link it to the final result cell which I'm testing on, hit enter. I'll just make this look bold. Maybe I can also give it a different color, maybe slightly darker, and change the font color to white. Well, that's good enough. Now, while we have this, let's select this entire table. Now, come to Data menu, What If Analysis, Data Table. Now, this time, we need to enter the column variables as well as the row input variable. So, for row input cell, what is arranged in a row format? We have changes in variable cost arranged in row format, all the input parameters for variable cost. So row input cell reference should be variable cost, and selling price variables are given, or the parameters are given in a single column. So whatever column input that you have, that must be put over here in this selling price per unit. Click OK, and here we have the result. Now this is a good matrix. You can see, for example, what if the selling price is at 60 and you manage to have your variable cost at 30. This is the result, or this is the profit that you will be looking at. Now, what if you are not getting sufficient profits? Now, what if you barely manage to keep your selling price at 55 and the variable cost is something that you had underestimated? It's no longer 30, it is 40. So if the selling price is at 55 and you're selling at 40 a unit, that means for selling 75 units, you will face a loss of 375. Well, in case if instead of 75 units, you're selling 80 units, that's slightly different story here. You see, all the numbers automatically got adjusted. So here we have at 45 selling price and $25 as variable cost, you will get $100 as profit. So the break even is somewhere in between. So we don't see that. But what if, let's say, I do not want this at 30, but I want 32. All I can do is just come here, change this to 32, hit enter, the numbers automatically get updated. Now that's quite convenient, right? You can just sit in a meeting and just change any of these values. Anyone who comes up with any random number, let's say someone comes up and says it's 55 is ridiculously high, try it at 52. Just change this to 52 and here you have this. Now you cannot edit any part of the data table here. For example, I click here, I delete this, it will not work. I cannot change any part of the data table. You need to ensure that this one is always linked to the final output cell and you're mapping them to appropriate column or row input reference. Further, one word of caution. Whenever you have the final result that you want to test in, it should be in the same worksheet where you're using the data tables. Okay, the final result should be in the same worksheet. Similarly, any input cells that you're trying to work on. For example, here we were testing on change in selling price and change in variable cost. It is important that you have both these parameters or these cells in the same worksheet as the data table. So in such a way that any change you make here, it should be affecting the profits as well. So you should have the final result cell, the input cells all in the same worksheet as in the data table. Only then the data table works. Else it might give you some random results or maybe an error.